Hi, welcome to Tales from the Tap. My name is Frankie and this is my co-host,
Dan the Man.
and we are excited to talk to you about new cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, but a little under the weather. Stan and I are both feeling it. You'll probably hear it throughout the episode, but bear with us, and it's probably going to be a short one.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, so what are you thinking now that we've seen just about a week of cards? With anything exciting to you? Anything that you're like, man?
Just another day at the office. No, just kidding. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's I've been playing a lot of limited. I think this set has been it's kind of like a little bit of a love and hate. I really love Thunder Junction, but one of the things I hate about the format for limited is how swingy it is in terms of like bomb mythics or bomb rares that are pseudo unbeatable, you know what I mean? So like I've had some decks that I'm like, man, this deck is easily a 7-win deck, and I'm like crushing, and then you'll get to like the arena game where you're like, oh, no lands for 4 mulligans, of course, and then you'll get the game against like some guy that has Rakdos the Muscle, or
Rakdos the Muscle with Laughing Jasper,
or something like unbeatable.
The other like 4-drop that sacrifices dudes to put stuff onto the battlefield.
I forgot the name of it, but it's a pretty cool dinosaur on the big score. It's like 7 mana. If it dies, it makes a copy of itself. When it summons itself, it draws a card. It has trample. It's a 6/6 or 7/7. So like I'm like crushing this guy. He summons that dinosaur. I kill the dinosaur 3 times because he copies it. I kill the copy. He reanimates it. I'm like, sweet, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you have the rare reanimate spell?
I was going to say, was it reanimate?
It was
the actual reanimate?
No, it was Rakdos joins up, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which is a rare, I'm pretty sure.
It is, yeah.
So it's like awesome, man.
Well, I was only asking because reanimate is in this set, which is sweet.
It is. But otherwise, the gameplay has been so fun. I showed you that deck last night. So I had this really terrible draft deck that was somehow getting me wins. Where I got Ariat Pack 2, and my buddy was watching me play, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make it work. So then I Scryfall. What are all the auras in the set? There's 3 auras in Thunder Junction, and only one of them is in Ariat's colors, which is Stop Cold. So if you're going to steal something, it's going to get like deleted anyway. And then the other one is
because it loses all abilities.
Yeah,
and it's tapped. Right.
So, but to be fair though, in Ariat's colors, you're supposed to play aristocrats. So I drafted a couple of that Orzhov legend that are like sacrifice a guy, which made the deck honestly kind of functional. But and her colors kind of like play nicely for that. Stop Cold's not a bad card by itself. But the other ones where I had like 4 of them, it's like Reach for the Sky.
Reach for the sky.
So your guy gets like +3, +2 reach, and you draw a card if the card leaves the battlefield, so that's kind of nice. The last one is a red card. I can't remember the name of it, but it also draws a card when it leaves the battlefield, and I was like, none of those. I'll splash the green, which I did, and I just play like Esper with a green splash because like the rainbow lands make it so easy.
Yeah.
And it was just so funny. Like the hardest matchup for me ended up being this guy that had a Lotus ring.
Lotus ring?
Yeah. I couldn't kill any of his guys. He would just sack them. And then, or I couldn't steal his guys. He would just sack them. And then that same guy, for whatever reason, had like 7 active treasons. They just kept stealing my own guys after I would stabilize and then just like sacrifice them. I'm like, what's happening in this
That sounds
format?
awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. Thunder Junction has been a good time. But as far as your question, constructor play, we did have the RCQ yesterday, which we'll get into when you talk about your finish here at the Boar Hat. And yeah, it's pretty interesting seeing some of the cards that are making their way into constructed play for Thunder Junction. We talked about it already, where like the last 4 sets have been really high impact for constructed, not just Thunder Junction, but Murders, Wilds, Ixalan. Thunder Junction, man, some of those cards, especially that Slick Shot rookie, is that what it's called?
Slick Shot Show Off.
Yeah, that card's here to stay.
That all the prowess lists everywhere, all the burn lists, all the heroic, they're like, we're back, baby.
It's crazy because it's like, first of all, it has plot, so it's already the best one. But then when you compare it to like all the other cards, it's like, okay, so what card goes in that slot? And the cards that we've seen play, like Sprite Dragon has seen play in Modern, you know what I mean? Ledger Shredder gets played. Don't get me wrong, Ledger Shredder's a good card, but it's not that aggressive. It's more of like a value town, filter your draws, eventually kind of get there, grind the game out.
Yeah.
This card is so nasty. Like plot, go, set yourself up. So like if you're playing Teamer or Is It or whatever, you can just set yourself up really nicely. And if you're playing just like red green for whatever reason, you can still just like slam mutagenic growths. So many of the lists that I've seen so far that people have posted are just absolutely disgusting. And then obviously we had people here at the RCQ playing it in Pioneer, and very good card. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the guy that won had the card in his list.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
So at the tournament, not from that guy, but that game that you saw where I had like a really full board and lost,
Yeah.
I got hit with a slick shot show off for 13 damage
Yeah.
at 16.
Yeah, I saw you.
And it
on
was
the
just
floor,
like
whatever.
Ancestral Anger. Give it +1/0 and draw a card. I think it's Defiant Strike or something. Divine Strike.
Ancestral Anger, I thought they were playing.
That, but the white one where it's like +1/0 and draw.
Mhm.
And it's because the slick shot show off, what really makes it different is the +2/0
Yeah.
on each non-creature spell. So it's not only like, oh, it's got trample and +1, it's +2.
Yeah,
It's like
the
super
craziest
prowess. It's like,
Mhm. That card makes Kiln Fiend look like, oh my god, like, because Kiln Fiend used to be crazy, right? I don't know if you ever got to play like Ataxian Probe in Modern when it was legal, but like Suicide Zoo, like Ataxian Probe, Mutagenic Growth, Tainted Strike, like that kind of deck was just so crazy. And even in Pauper, like they had to ban Swift Spear because like cards like Kiln Fiend are so crazy. +3 every turn. This guy is like, okay, sure, I'm not Kiln Fiend in terms of +3, but +2 is still a ton, especially when you combo it with cards like Monstrous Rage and Defiant Strike, like you're saying. Okay, well now I am getting those extra points of damage, and this guy, like, he's like perfect for that archetype where normally the issue with these heroic decks is like, for example, Feather, which was really good in Pioneer back in the day. Like, well, turn 3, tap out for Feather, go. Please don't kill my commander. You know what I mean? Like the meme. Oh, well, come on, guys! If I have my commander in play, I can
come on.
I can do some really cool stuff. Oh, Swords of Plowshare, man. But like this card's like, I'm gonna do this later. Go. And the funniest part is you're showing it off too. It's like you're not hiding anything. You're like, this is happening.
This is my flex.
Which flavor fail, by the way. I saw a funny tweet. I don't remember who it was, but it was like, he was like, this is so stupid. The worst flavor fail of all time. You're foretelling a card, so you hide it, but you're plotting something, and you show your opponent what you're plotting. Absolutely terrible. I'm like, that's actually really funny.
That is funny. Wizards wasn't thinking about that when they were naming mechanics.
Well, when they made Foretell, they were like, yeah, I mean, why would you want to show it? And then they were like, oh yeah, let's show it. But you know, the plot cards are really, really cool. I know I didn't like the mechanic at first. We were like in the group chat talking about like how I was sad that they weren't spell speed. But like looking at it now, it's like, oh god, thank goodness they're not spell speed. If you could also use them with counter magic, like with Jace or whatever, no way. Absolutely disgusting. It is actually kind of cool, like, because I don't remember the name of the bird, but it's like a 3-mana flash bird. You plot a spell, and then they can pay 2 mana for it later.
Oh, it's like it's Aven Interrupter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe you're right. And so that card is really cool. But in my head, I was like, oh, that's kind of like okay. It just gives them the spell back, like a remand. But what I didn't think about is that, like, when you're playing that in standard and you are fighting counter wars, you're plotting their counter spell that is never coming back. Or honestly, any instant, like if the card needs certain interactions, you're like, well, that's plotted now. I can always play around it. You're just absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So it should be pretty interesting to see how these cards pan out. I'm sure we'll see obviously more in the future.
More cooking. Yeah, it's only the first week.
And in the first week, people usually tend to lean towards the confirmation bias, like we saw with Leyline of the Guild Pact. It's like, oh well, this is the hot, you know, this is it's like a Master Chef, you know, you all have to cook, but everybody's got to use Leyline of the Guild Pact. and you better make your best cuisine. Well, back where I'm from, Mom used to make Cyanide Draco. So, But anyways, with that being said, we're going to jump into some quick housekeeping. And like we said, we are both feeling a little bit under the weather. We're going to try to keep it short, but we will try to keep it sweet and high quality for you guys.
So, with that being said, if you like our show and you'd love to support us, the best way to do that is to join our Patreon, patreon.com/talesfromthetap. We have a ton of different tiers from low to high where you can get different perks for joining the show, like getting special access in our Discord, getting some coaching sessions with Dan is all the way at the top. Sideboard guides will even at second highest tier. You give us your jank, we'll go ahead and play it on stream.
Mm-hmm.
And
having to play your deck list on stream, I'd love that. It helps me decide.
Yeah. And so yeah, it just kind of helps us to keep the lights on and keep putting back into the quality of the show. So if you can, please do. But as always, our show will be free. So anyone that is just listen, support, we really appreciate your help too. And for just being here. Yep. We also could use some subscribes, follows, likes on the Twitter.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. You might not be subscribed. If you think you are, we really appreciate it. We're just trying to hit some metric goals or whatever right now. But so far, the viewers, I mean, we're so grateful. The view count has been so high, and we really appreciate you guys just hanging out with us. Honestly, if you can't support us on Patreon, just the views are phenomenal. We're glad that you actually are wanting to watch the content and enjoying it. You can follow us for free on YouTube, follow us on Twitch for free. You can follow us on Twitter, whatever you want to do. Join our Discord, join the conversation. We're always active in there, talking with our friends. I've been posting a lot of limited this week just because I've been enjoying Thunder Junction, just taking screenshots nonstop, bantering with our buddies. We're always like talking shit to each other. It is what it is. Finding teams for the latest Nerd Rage event. Shout outs to everybody that's at Nerd Rage this weekend. Good luck to you guys. And they're, I think Jared and some of our other buddies are there right now. And so, like we said, Patreon is always the best way to support us. Shout outs to our patrons who have been supporting us from the beginning. But the show will always be free. And thank you for being with us. Otherwise, let's jump into your RCQ top 8.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I ended up making top 8, which I described to my wife when I got home. Probably the day of Magic. Yeah. It was just an absolute grind, and I was really drained mentally because I prepped. I was playing Niv to Light. Mm-hmm. And Niv to Light got one of the new hotness cards. It's Pillage the Bog.
Oh,
it's a green and a black. And it's got plot for 1 green and black.
Mm.
The card says, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands. Roll. You may grab one of them, put it into your.
So good.
Yeah, and people in the Niv to Light Discord that I kind of joined in preparation for RCQs have been describing this card as Demonic Tutor. But I think another really great comparison that you'd mentioned this week is that it's really similar to Assemble the Team in Timeless, where you get 5 lands out, or I've done it with 7 lands, 8 lands, 9 lands. You're digging 10, 12, 14, 18 cards into your deck. It's almost a tutor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite a tutor, but it's as close as physically possible in Pioneer, and it wins games by itself.
Yeah, and honestly, in a deck like Yorion, you really, really need that selection. So the card is such an awesome addition. It also gives you a Golgari card to dig for with Niv Mizzet, which is really, really cool. But yeah, to your point about how much of a slog it was, there's a Nerd Rage event going on this weekend in Minneapolis, and a lot of our buddies are actually there right now, like we talked about. And because of that, I was anticipating a low turnout. There's a lot more RCQs this season, like we talked about before. And I fully anticipated. I was like, I had 12 guys. It'll be a really soft field. It was 22 players, really dense field. Some of the best players were here. Matt Hoey was here. Really, really good players. And even the people that I would consider the lower tier of the players, not to disrespect anybody, but the lower end of the skill cap. If you looked at the room, those players were overperforming like crazy. Everybody was on their mojo yesterday. I mean, one of our buddies, my partner Todd, who's also owner at Boarhat, his twin brother, he's been grinding Magic with us the last 6 months, and he actually got top 8. He beat Matt Hoey to knock him out of top 8. He almost got like the 3-win splits, but he lost that round at undefeated to Tyler, who's another one of our new guys who's been coming to play with us with Pioneer, and we've been helping him practice. And he got 3-0, and I was like, hey, because he was like shaking during his match with Richard.
Yep.
Like shake. I was like, bro, you don't have to play anymore. You splits for top 8. Now go meditate. No more shaking.
No, go
And
meditate.
He was like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, you're in. You did it. And he was like so happy. Like that was like I think that was Richard and his first RCQ top 8s, which is really cool. And 4 of our locals got to top 8. So I always like when my guys win at my events. So like if you show up to my event and you're one of my people and you don't do well, get out. Looking at you, Brandon. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I think Julian also top 8'd, right? So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just like a really good event. I was happy with it, happy with the turnout, but also just happy with the quality of play. I got to like walk around, see some really good gameplay. And I've been down on Pioneer. Yesterday kind of uplifted me a bit watching some of the more interactive matchups. And also like somehow we had a field of 0 Amalia. Like not even one Amalia player.
0 Amalia players.
And everybody was talking about it like, oh, I prepped for Amalia. I'm losing to everything else.
Yeah, so when I say slog, specifically for me, is that on Niv to Light, I have 3 decks that are in the top 5 that I want to see.
Yeah.
One of which is Vampires, Phoenix, and Mono Black Discard. All of those decks, I like my deck, how it's built naturally, is meant to beat those because
and to be fair, there was a lot of those in the room.
There was. And I faced Heroic, Vampires, and then Vampires I ended up losing off of like a top deck in game 3. Like I have a stable board, they've got a Fable and a Sorin out. They top deck I think it's some Blood Vial Purveyor or something. It's a 5/6 from Crimson Vow with Flying and Trample. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, they get a blood token, and Blood Veil Purveyor gets like +1/0 for each blood your opponents control.
He's a 5-drop?
Yes.
I mean, maybe I'm not remembering the card then, but yeah, that sounds really scary.
So he puts it into play, copies it with Fable, and then has the ability to sack another creature with Sorin to throw 3 damage at me. So it was exactly like, hit me for 8 while I'm at 8.
And Sorin sacks, man, those get there. People really sleep on that second ability.
They do. And then I faced Lotus Field, Mono Green, Heroic, and then Heroic.
Oh, Lotus Field. And didn't you beat Lotus Field?
No, that was Julian.
Oh, okay. So because I was gonna say like Lotus Field's a really, really hard matchup.
It's
for Niv.
almost impossible. It's like a 20% win rate against Lotus Field. It's
wait,
terrible.
You started out 0-2?
I was 1-2. I won my first round against Heroic. I then lost my next 2. Yeah. And then
Heroic's also one of your worst matchups.
Right.
That's so crazy.
And then I beat Mono Green, which is not a favored matchup for me. And then I beat Heroic again, which is not favored for me. And then faced the guy who won on Heroic in the top 8. So it was just like I was facing the wrong side of the room all day.
Yeah, and if you had not played the Heroic guy, you might have had a chance.
And I was just squeaking, and I squeaked wins out of like 3 of my matchups, and all of my opponents then did really well. Like Robert, who I beat first round, then also was 3-2, and Kaz made top 8.
Yeah, Robert barely didn't make top 8. I think he got like 9th or 10th.
Yeah, Kaz, who beat me, made top 8. Yeah. Julian, who beat me, made top 8. And then I beat my next 2 opponents. So it was like every single person that I had faced then did well for the rest of the day, which made my 3-2 breakers like unbeatable, which squeaked me in 8th.
Yeah, you got 8th, right? Yeah. I mean, if everybody you face is just in top 8, that's how that goes.
Yeah.
That's why I knew like Alex was like, oh, I'm going to start checking Robert's deck. I was like, he's not in top 8. He's like, but he's 3-2. I was like, trust me. Worst breakers.
The math don't math.
Like the only good breaker he had was that the guy that won the tournament was 4-0-1. It's like really good breakers there, but everywhere else, not quite. But yeah, it was crazy. Like I thought Matt Hoey was going to win because he was playing Phoenix, and when I saw what the top 8 was looking like, I was like, oh yeah, the only real problem for him is if Heroic gets a crazy start. And then when Richard knocked him out, I was like, well, that's not a Phoenix player anymore. That's Mono Green. You know, now I guess it just depends on who plays who first, because like it could have very easily been that the Phoenix player that did top 8 ended up pairing against your Heroic opponent. I think Phoenix, I'd rather be the Phoenix player against Heroic with
for
the
sure.
amount of removal and draw they have.
Yes.
So had that been the matchup, maybe you're looking at like a way different top 8 where like Phoenix is a way more beatable deck for you. But just yeah, what a crazy event overall. And then I think there was one in Evanston as well that happened. I didn't get to see what top 8'd, but quite a few of the people that we recognize also top 8'd.
I saw Raul's post, and the 2 winners of that were I don't know who, but Phoenix and Nib to Light.
Oh wow,
were the 2 winners.
Yeah, because I think I saw when we were grinding RCQs, I saw that Will Kruger and Sam, the people that we've been seeing from grinding tournaments, also top 8'd over there.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Bernal was there, so he didn't make top 8. Hoey told me he just didn't want to drive out because we were closer. Which I was like, hey man, I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean overall, really good event. Happy with it. Good job on top 8ing, and shout out to our homies that also top 8'd. Really proud of you guys.
Yeah, my big takeaway is that and as this kind of gets into the next part of like, hey, cards you should be looking out for. Haven't already. Slickshot Show Off is incredible.
It's also like probably not going to get cheaper.
No,
soon.
It's not going to get cheaper because it's the only card, like so far, right, in week 1 that is being played across
all formats.
All formats. Yeah, all formats. I got hit for like 16, 13 with Slickshot Show-Offs yesterday because if you have 1 or 2 draw cards after it's already out, it's like
I'm surprised. Well, usually when cards like this show up, people try to like cook a deck in Legacy, whether it's playable or not. I'm waiting to see the 5-0 with it in Legacy. But yeah, it's going to be good in at least the 3 main formats forever. Let's be realistic. It's probably like the best card in that slot now for a long time. There's not really a debate, you know, like when the Ledger Shredder came out, we knew it was powerful, but it was not as obvious right away as it was cheap for a little bit. And there was debate whether or not it was still that good even afterwards, where now it's like this guy is so much better that nobody's arguing what other 2-drop you would be playing in this slot. And I think Jeremy said it best. Jeremy was like, listen, they're $15 now. I'm going to be playing with them the whole time. Just get them. I think honestly the card could literally be like actually like a $30 card if it keeps performing well.
And if you're not familiar, Slickshot Show Off, 1 in a red, Bird Wizard, flying, haste, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Slickshot Show Off gets +2/0 until end of turn, and you can plot for 1 in a red. It's a 1/2.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this card should not have power. It should have been a 0/2. It has flying for some reason. The haste makes sense because that's what the card is designed to do. But it's evasive. It has haste, so the plot is that much stronger. Because now you're never casting this guy on 2. You're always plotting him, because then when you're ready to go off, that's the turn you summon him, and he's fired up.
And the Heroic deck plays like 3 4-ofs of like Lauren's Escape, which is like hexproof, indestructible, and like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just
God's willing, etc.
Yeah,
whatever.
Very good. Right.
I could even see like Naya versions with like Blossoming Defense. I could see Teamer versions to play Treasure Cruise, stuff like that.
Yeah, Teamer's
or Jeskai.
Teamer's being played in Modern, and Gruul Atarka is using this in Pioneer with that green card that you just mentioned. Yeah.
And yeah, there's just so many options. In every color, there's cards that just make this so much better. And in every format, there's, you know, like Modern has Mutagenic Growth and Gut Shot, so you could just do so much with this guy. Manamorphose if you really wanted to, which is funny because I think right now the lists can't fit the Manamorphose in, which is so funny. But they're playing Underworld Breach with it in Modern and Mishra's Bauble. It's like, yeah, kill you.
Yeah, you're dead.
So crazy. That card though that you mentioned, the Golgari card that like draws you off the third of your deck or whatever.
Yeah, Pillage the Bog.
Yeah, Pillage the Bog. That card is really cool. I'm excited to see that a lot more going forward because these 5-color like Niv Mizzet decks I'm a really big fan of. I just love playing Yorion, so I'm excited to see more of that card as well. And I'm sure we'll start seeing some more of the other cards getting played. There was some mono black players here in the RCQ that were playing Karavik, and he was pretty nasty where whenever you commit a crime, you can like copy a spell out of your graveyard or whatever.
Yep.
So gross. Really a lot of really good cards in the set, and I think we are only seeing the beginning of what it's going to start looking like, especially as standard events like the RC and whatever Nerd Rage events start coming up. I know I have to start practicing standard for Indie, and Pioneer RCQs are going to be going on for like another 3 months, basically. I don't know if the next RCQ season is modern or not, but Modern Horizons 3 is also coming in June. It's going to be really, really exciting to play Magic right now.
Yeah, and like a lot of what we're talking about is just stuff that's seeing play across all formats, where
Yeah.
I'm seeing people cook in standard.
Oh, yeah.
Like standard has cooking. I saw like a Grixis mid-range list that was playing like Kevrik and Corpse Appraiser and the new Marchesa.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just like I was like, oh, that's the kind of hotness that I want to play.
I want to see somebody play that double upkeep card. It's like, it's so terrible.
Oh, like
I'm sure there's
I
gotta
think
be
it's
something.
Obeka.
Yeah, Obeka.
Yeah.
Ariette though, I really like Ariette. If you guys can make Ariette work, please send me a list. I really love that card. I mean, like, she's a 4/4 with lifelink. I was gonna play her anyway.
You just gotta pray that you're praying that day that you dodge control.
Yeah. Didn't you also say Tiny Bones is expensive? Because before, when we were seeing spoilers, I kept talking about how high I was on Tiny Bones and how I think he's a really good Esper or 5-color Legends card for Standard and Pioneer. And I thought you said before we started that it was like going up in price or whatever, because I'm really high on that Tiny Bones 1-drop.
Yeah, so Tiny Bones is seeing play in Esper. It's seeing play in Rakdos.
Yeah.
It's seeing play in Legends builds. I think the card is just good. Like you having the ability to kind of like reanimate cards, right?
It's non-land permanence.
Right. So
But still, like, you're casting the cards out of your opponent's graveyard, getting all this free value. Kind of reminds me of like Jasper for limited, where like Jasper just steals all your opponent's cards. If you play limited and you see Jasper, if it's early enough to switch, he is worth switching for. Especially if you have any kind of outlaw synergies. Keep in mind you don't need him. He makes his own outlaws. But like you just start stealing all the cards off your opponent's deck. Tiny Bones is kind of doing the same thing for such a low cost. The fact that it's a 1-drop and you're just like, here's this guy, kill him if you want to. If you kill him, you're honestly wasting a removal spell, it feels like. But if you block him, he has Death Touch. So like this card is so disgusting. But if he connects, I don't know, like it just has to steal 1 card to feel really good. Even if it's like, oh, I stole your Bloodtithe Harvester, or I stole your Mosswood Dread Knight or something, like that's kind of gross.
Yeah, just stealing anything is like really insane value, especially when you're on like top deck mode. It's like it becomes an engine.
Right.
It feels like Tibalt, but cheaper.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, in late game, like you said, when you have 6-7 lands, you're like, oh, attack you, connect, steal your like Bonehorde Dracosaur or something, steal your 4 mana enormous green creature.
Yeah.
It's really crazy card.
Yeah, so Tiny Bones is getting tick up in standard. The other standard like all-star right now is Duelist of the Mind.
Oh yeah, Duelist of the Mind.
So
is nasty.
Duelist of the Mind, the reason why I think this interaction is really crazy is that its power is equal to the number of cards that you've drawn this turn. And then it says when you commit a crime, you draw a card or discard a card. Well, Raffine, every time it connives, counts as drawing. So you can get Duelist of the Mind to be attacking on, turn 2 for... I mean, not attacking on turn 2, but like when you have Raffine out and you swing, you could get so many draws
Yeah.
that it's
Well, like on
always
turn 3 even, like if you have a 1-drop and a 2-drop, so Connive would be 2. You've already drawn a card for turn. You
right.
know what I mean? Like it's at least 3 power just on that turn, assuming you've done nothing else.
Assuming you've done nothing else, and then late game, it's almost like a one shot.
Well, yeah, you have Wedding Announcement, all these cards making new creatures, Virtual Loyalty, etc.
Yeah,
Nasty.
and I think that this card specifically is going to be similar to Ledger Shredder. Even could replace Ledger Shredder because, right, think about it like this. Ledger Shredder cares about you casting multiple spells. And you don't want that unless you're playing like a cantrippy deck where you're playing tons of. But if you want to play a slower mid-range type game where you're trying to just like kill your opponent's stuff,
yeah,
Duelist the Mind's better. So I think that if you are on a non-cantrip game plan, I think Duelist card.
Yeah, that could honestly that makes a lot of sense, and the card is very powerful. It has 0 power as it should, and then it becomes stronger, unlike the other card. But still, really well designed card. I think it's interesting. It'll be sad that it loses Raffine, but I think it'll still just be a good card even without Raffine. I'm curious if we'll see them play like Azorius with that guy and like Audigen. So like maybe you don't want Ledger Shredder, but you want to cast like 6 cantrips in one turn or something. And then you have like Monastery Mentor in those colors. Because Helping Hand, I think it's called. Helping Hand is really nice with that card, I think. And Helping Hand already has really good synergy with Mentor and Haughty Jin. So it could be a card that I think sees play in that archetype as well.
I just want to go back quickly to Pillage the Bog.
Okay.
Pillage the Bog.
Pillage the Bog.
Yeah. Not only do I think that this card is going to see play in Nibelite, but like I think if there's any Golgari Rock deck,
oh for sure,
yeah, you could be like, oh, I'll just go grab a board wipe or something. This card is currently also, as everyone is aware, this week when I was getting them from people, I was just asking for the card because it was a quarter, and I think that the card is going to go up.
Oh, for sure. Is it an uncommon though?
It's a rare.
It's a rare. Wow.
It's a rare.
Yeah. That's still crazy. So like I completely agree because like hear me out. I think this card is better than people think it is by a lot. I don't think it's like a little bit better than people think. I think it's so much better than people are giving it credit for right now because sure you get to see the upside of like, oh, I did it on turn 5 after I plotted it and I resolved the Niv miss it and blah blah blah. But like even if you're playing just like Golgari Rock, like Frank said, and you're not doing anything crazy, and you're not ramping, and you don't have Arboreal Grazers or whatever. You're playing 4 copies of this card, almost certainly, if that's your draw engine, or your whatever filtering. On turn 2, it's still like digs 4. It's an impulse.
It's impulse on turn 4.
It's just impulse, or turn 2 because it's in the lands, right?
Yeah, turn 2.
It's it's impulse base. Everything else is a bonus.
And for
in colors that you don't get that effect in.
Right. And for like Niv, there are sometimes on turn 2 where I'm like, oh, I just got to hit my land drop. Cool.
Yeah.
Play it, get my land, play my land, go.
Yeah, and the next one is going to be that much stronger as a result. It's so gross.
Yeah. It's good. And like if you think about Niv to Light, it's a toolbox deck. Right. So most cards are.
I was going to say the same thing.
Most cards are played as like 1-ofs, 2-ofs. It's immediately up to a 3 or 4. Most lists are playing 3 because if you have 2 in your opener, you want to cry. But otherwise, like it's a 3-of, and we haven't seen a card like that for this kind of deck in a long time.
Yeah, even in like Rock though, like where you're like, oh, I'm seeing a lot of the same cards. If you're in top deck mode and like an attrition grindy Jund Golgari Rock deck, there's not a better top deck you usually ever want to see. Like, oh, it's turn 8 for both of us. Look at the top half of my deck. I'm going to find whatever I need right now, whether it's removal, Shieldred, etc. Like, oh man, my only out right now is a field nuke. Well, dig 20 cards.
Yeah. I, this week in Pioneer, not at the RCQ, was playing against Mono Black discard.
Yeah.
So I'm hellbent. I rip a Pillage the Bog off the top with 7 lands. Cool. Pay 2, Pillage the Bog, dig 14, grab Niv to Light, or grab Bring to Light, play Bring to Light, get Niv 3 cards back into my hand, like now I'm miles ahead of my discard opponent because they don't have any more cards left either.
Right.
And now I have a 6/6 body on the board and 3 more cards in my hand.
Right. I also love that it's such a good turn ender effect where you're like, what I mean by that is like sometimes you're playing a deck and you're like, man, you have like maybe 6 different paths you can go with what your hand looks like, but you more or less narrowed it down to like 1 or 2. Like I have to do this, I have to do this. Everything else is a bonus if I can resolve it. So maybe you're like, I for sure want to cast my draw spell, but based on what I draw, I might want to do something else. Okay, cool. You do that. You hit a Pillage the Bog. Well, there's not a real reason to cast a card if you are going to be out of mana after it resolves. So, especially like if you're Hellbent or close to it and your opponent are playing Thoughtseize effects at all, the fact that you can just like plot it if you have the extra mana and go like, I'm going to see this card later. You can't Thoughtseize it out of my hand. I have a chance to even hit a land drop to make it 2 more cards deep. It's just, it's got everything. The card really is probably like, I think after talking about it today, just like one of my favorite cards in the set. I think it will be one of my favorite cards to play with for sure. And I'm excited to see it going forward. I don't think it's going anywhere. I genuinely think it will get played in Modern. That's how strong it is. Like, just think about it, man. Like these 5-color decks, they could play a card like this reasonably.
I'd like to hear that.
Although there's no Yorion, so my heart.
My poor heart. Well, maybe I'd be okay with you right now that Fury.
Hey, Pillage the Bog pitches to Endurance and Grief. I'm just saying.
True. The next card I wanted to talk about is High Noon. I've actually seen
High Noon,
yeah. So Pioneer has been starting to dabble with Jeskai.
Yeah.
And it started with Lightning Helix coming back into the form. And I'm now seeing it, especially in Standard 2, where High Noon, which is 1 and a white enchantment, each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn.
Yep.
4 in red, sacrifice deals 5 damage to any target.
Yeah. 5-mana removal spell. I've actually used it in Limited before, where I just like draft it. And I'm like, well, it's a removal spell. But you end up playing against the Izzet deck where they want a double spell. And you just like turn their deck off. It's kind of nasty. But yeah, like for Pioneer especially, for like half the format, or like let's be real, like a fifth, because like 20% meta share. Phoenix, you're like, no Phoenix.
No Phoenix. Well, I think the same is true also for like Heroic. They want to like make their dudes huge, and they need to do that by like casting a million spells. Yeah. Maybe I should play High Noon as a board card for
Niv. It'll be worth as a one of.
Interesting.
Card.
That's an interesting thought, because if you're going to play RCQs, just expect that Heroic is going to be there, because the deck is good and it's not represented on Goldfish. That was the thing I wanted.
It's also very aggro. Aggro is super popular in these short tournaments.
That's the thing I wanted to hit. The other card outside of High Noon is also seeing its way into Control List 2 is the 3 Steps Ahead.
Oh yeah, the Cryptic Command.
Yeah, so 3...
That card is nasty. As soon as it came out, I was like, wow, that's actually just Pioneer's Cryptic Command. It's not going anywhere. So good.
Yeah, 3 Steps Ahead is 1. It's a spree card. You can pay an extra 1 and a blue to counter target spell, which is cancel, effectively.
Base cancel, but of all the base cancels, this is the best one by far.
Yes.
It's crazy.
For sure. 3 is created a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control. And then 2 is draw 2 cards, then discard a card.
If you ever get all 3 modes, like, you're not only in Christmas land, like
magical Christmas land.
But the thing is, it's not even that inconceivable for you to get all 3 modes if you're playing Control properly. Like, if your deck is doing what it's designed to do, you're for sure going to get the draw and the counterspell, which is like arguably better than Cryptic Command because it's a draw 2. And then if you get to like copy any of your guys, actually disgusting.
Well, I think that this card also is such a tempo change for Control. Control didn't have a lot of ways of like swinging the game in a quick way.
Yeah.
So my thought is, right, if you're playing Pioneer and you are in the cooking seat where you're like, I've been controlling the game long enough. I have a full grip. I have a big shark token. Can you imagine just being like, oh, on end step, I'm going to create a copy of this shark token that's swing in at you? Like, if it's a 4/4 or bigger, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're doubling. Like, the clock just got cut in half.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what I think is going to, like,
Well,
be
it's
such
such
a
any creature you control, right?
right.
Like, imagine you have something that's hard to get rid of, like an Azram or a Dream Trawler or something. You know what I mean? Like, even with Azram, you're like, well, I'll just get 2 more clues.
Yeah. Well, Ezram's legendary,
That's what I'm
but
saying, like, you
Dream,
just get the ETB. Like,
yeah,
free clues. You never get rid of them. Dream Trawler, you got 2 of them. Game's over.
right.
Absolutely over. Yeah, I don't know. It's so nutty. Yeah, like you said, it's a tempo change, but it's also like, these modal cards never really see more impact than they do in these mid-range control decks, because control right now, I think the biggest hindrance for it is like Pioneer control doesn't have what Modern had with Cryptic Command, Archmage's Charm, Snapcaster Mage kinda is like a toolbox card where like you're like, oh, my deck has everything, but most of the cards I need do 2 things. So in Pioneer, you're like, man, I really have to play Memory Deluge, and I have to consider playing, not consider, but I have to consider playing another draw spell, you know? Like, it can't, especially if you're playing Yorion, it can't just be Deluge. It's gotta be like Deluge Quick Study or Deluge Deduce, where like this card now is like, oh, some of your counter magic slot is also draw cards, and you might not even use it as a counterspell sometimes, especially in a matchup where counterspells are bad, like Heroic. You're just like, oh, on turn 3, Thirst for Knowledge, and now you're just fixing your hand, finding everything you need. These are the kind of cards that make control so much worse for the guy that's on the other side of the table, where now you can actually dig for cards with a spell that would normally have taken a slot that's a lot worse. Like, I think 3 Steps Ahead is so much better than Memory Deluge because it's not just a draw spell, which obviously in a Yorion deck you probably play both, but now you're not like totally cucked by having like, oh man, I hit Deduce and Deluge and Quick Study and I'm not drawing anything, bro. Like, oh man, I wish I had something. And the more effects like this we have with 3 Steps Ahead, and maybe in the future we get something similar to Snapcaster Mage or Archmage's Charm, those kind of cards are really going to push control over the top.
Yeah, I agree. The last card I had is, and this is like my honorable mention, my sleeper card, if you will, is called Legion Extruder. So it's currently a $2 card. Legion Extruder, 1 in a red, artifact. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. 2 and tap it. Sacrifice another artifact, create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature. So it's an artifact that when it ETBs, deals damage anywhere.
Yeah.
And you can sack artifacts later to just start making 3/3s.
Oh, okay.
What I think is crazy about this card is I saw this as a 1-of in Boros Convoke, I think in Standard is where I saw it. I was like, if you've got like extra blood tokens that are just chilling, or an extra clue token that's chilling and you haven't hit a Gleeful Demolition, at least you could start making 3/3s. Then I thought, oh my gosh, there will be a Standard list or even a Pioneer list that starts to put cards in their deck because it's already 2 mana deal 2 damage.
Yeah.
That then is also an artifact which you may want to sack with something else.
Yeah.
Or later, it's like just starts making bodies for you.
Right.
Like it turns these like Mayhem Devil decks
true.
into, oh, I can't do the Mayhem Devil thing. I'm at least making bodies and like having a backup win.
Yeah.
Of like making an army and hitting you with.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
and untested. So that's like my sleeper, like
That's you know what? That's kind of how it goes. Like we talked about when the new set comes out, everybody wants to try the first 4 cards we talked about. The last 10 cards that you would want to talk about, those cards start seeing love down the road. But that does sound really gross. Even like in a sacrifice deck, but just for heroic, or not heroic, like Go White Boros, Sanguine Evangelist probably really likes the card. I mean, anything with Battlecry, Imitating Recruiter is probably also really happy too. That's really gross. And yeah, and the fact that you get the ETB payoff right out the gate, and it's any target, right? So like you could just get rid of a blocker with it too. So that's kind of
you could shoot a blocker, you could shoot a face, you could anything.
Mm-hmm. But we definitely talked about like 3 steps ahead with like the spree card. But honestly, 90% of the spree cards are good. Be it like watch out for all of them. I was even like talking about my really shitty area draft last night. I had 2 of this uncommon that's like Entomb plus Reanimate on the same card.
Yep.
On the same card. So I was
Lively Dirge, I think it is.
Yeah, Lively Dirge. Yeah. So it's like black and then pay 1 Entomb. Pay 2 on the spree, I believe.
Yeah.
And then it's Reanimate up to 2 creatures, mana value total 4. So I would only get like 1 4/4 with it when I was playing with it. But if you get like a crazy Aristocrat deck in limited, you can get like a 1-drop and a 3-drop. But that kind of card is like kind of nasty even for like constructed play. And then that's just like an uncommon. Like all the other sprees are gross. The white one, the Field Nuke, is so nasty. I was just talking to Todd about how like when control starts seeing more play and you see all these Amalia decks, Voice of Resurgence decks all over the place, the fact that I can't remember the name of the white spree anymore.
Final Showdown.
The fact that Final Showdown attaches humility to the Field Nuke makes Voice of Resurgence so much worse. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this on your turn, and yeah, you're going to get the trigger, but then you're not going to get the second trigger, and I'm going to kill all your guys anyway. So, like, it invalidates Voice of Resurgence's premium effect against control decks. And that's just the white one, you know? Like, the green one is going to get played in Greasefang all over the place. I'm surprised we didn't see any Greasefang yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I got blown out by that card again this week.
Yeah.
Where he was like, he crewed Parhelion. I went, I'm going to Vanishing Verse. Because I'm going to crew it again, and then I'll go surprise all my stuff as hexproof and indestructible. And I was like,
yeah. Yeah.
What?
And that's just if you're doing that. That's almost like fair compared to like, tap 6, get a Trexa or something. Like,
yeah, right.
Tutor it out of my deck or something, or summon it out of my graveyard, etc.
Yeah.
Oh my god, these spree cards are so disgusting.
I think they're gonna see as like maybe people are gonna be down on them now, but I think as time goes on, people are gonna be like, "Wow, those cards aren't."
Yeah, because they are almost like the best version of a modal card you could ever have.
Agree. Yeah.
Because like imagine if Kolaghan's Command was a spree card. You know what I mean? It's like, red, but like red and 1, or like red and 1 and black. You know what I mean?
The card would be so much better.
Right? Like
so much better.
3 mana. I don't have 3 mana. Oh, but I got 3 mana. I got 2. You know?
Yep.
Like a lot of turns in limited, I would be like, oh man, I really wish I could cast both modes. But at least one mode gets me out of trouble. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about the 3 steps ahead. You might not always be able to counter a spell with it, but you can always draw cards with it, and then that's gonna feel really good. And if you don't get to draw cards with the first one because you absolutely have to counter a tempo play on turn 3, well, it was available to do that, where maybe your other counter spell wouldn't, or Normalize would have been bad there or something, or Normalize doesn't draw you cards later when you top deck it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm really super hyped on this set and constructed play going forward. I mean, we keep saying it all the time, but like the last 4 sets have all just been good. So like right now is like the best time to be a Magic enjoyer.
Yeah, I agree. And on top of it, at this massive pre-release that you had this past weekend.
Oh, true. We had 54 players for pre-release. Crazy.
I heard some people talking like near the door as I was coming in, or maybe it was later in the night. I can't remember, but they had mentioned how they got into the game via Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
and I was like, that's wild to me because I've been playing Magic for, almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
That's just so cool that like now there are people that are new and like because of some of these Universes Beyond.
That's why I don't hate them. People hate Universes Beyond. Like, bro, I can't not hate them. The amount of new players that are like, oh, dude, Fallout got me into the game. I just started playing 3 months ago. Oh man, Doctor Who, something like, dude. If I saw that kind of stuff in high school, I would like freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the Supernatural secret layer. What's going on? I want my Sam and Dean deck.
I think I can get my wife to play if there's like some Australian show with mermaids. They made that Secret Lair Wizards.
Dude,
my wife's getting into Magic.
It could be anything. It could be Naked and Afraid, the Secret Lair, or what's that one? Island, Lover's Island, or something like that. Yeah. Get all the moms into the game. Oh my god, it'd be so much fun.
Awesome. Well,
get the cursed Kardashian Secret Lair. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I think that's all about the energy that we have for today. We're going to get into some quick shout outs before we wrap it up. And I think our Commander players are here too. We're about to record a Commander game for you guys for YouTube as well.
So, first shout out is to Nancy Steroids for doing our intro and outro music. Please go ahead on Spotify and check out his other music there too. Seen an uptick because of you, like you.
Yeah, if you're not into music, at least give him a follow. It really does help. Honestly, all that free stuff. It sounds dumb, but it really does help in the algorithms for these content creators that are trying to grow.
Yeah. Next is Chicago. Speaking of content creators, who does a lot of Magic in the area, specifically for Boar's Hat here. You can go and see his games on YouTube and see tons of Legacy, Pioneer, Modern, Standard, all types of games that you can kind of scope out some decks that you'd like and actually how they play out in.
Yep. We sent all our gameplay to Sal, and Sal lets us use the cameras that we record in the store, and we're using one of his cameras right now for recording the podcast.
Yep. Next is a shout out to Todd for doing all of the visuals that we have come up on screen. So all the cards that we're talking about while we're talking about them. Thank you for that. Free. I can't. Really does me. Also, shout out to Boar's Hat Gaming for doing. Letting us be here in the store for every recording that we do. If you like Outlaws of Thunder Junction, please go ahead and buy some here.
Yeah, you can always pre-order on our website. We are absolutely happy to ship to you if you're from out of state. We actually had quite a few people reaching out to us recently from out of state, whether they saw Sal's channel or our podcast, and we're like, oh, I love you guys. I'm from New Jersey. I'm from Florida. Can I get some of your tokens? I'm like, hell yeah, man. I got you. That's awesome. So we really, really appreciate it. We're super grateful that you guys are into it. And shout outs, like we said, shout outs to Todd. He's also sick. I think he's at home dying right now. So just pray for the three of us,
We'll need it.
What's it called? And just shout outs to the viewers like you. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. Double shout outs to the patrons. We really appreciate the support. You guys have been with us from the beginning, and it really, really does help us. We really appreciate it, and we want to keep growing it so we can get better content out for you guys when we are not under the weather.
Next, you can tune in to hear us talk a little bit more about Pioneer RCQ. Just more cooking that's happened Outlaws of Thunder Junction with us having a little bit more time with the set. I know that I already have an RCQ, so we're excited to give you details and hopefully finally clinch one and finally be the bride and not the bridesmaid.
Yeah, Frank's gonna be grinding RCQs. I have to start prepping Standard because I'm gonna be on a team trios for Energy Indy, and I have to start learning Standard with what Thunder Junction is gonna do to the format. And based on what we just talked about, I think it's gonna be a lot. So catch you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.